What's going on, everyone? Mitesh here, and today I have for you guys my full review of the Android One edition of the Moto X4. Now, in this review, I'm going to be mainly covering the performance of the phone, the cameras, and then the things that I found after using it for a couple of weeks, the things that I really liked and disliked about this phone. If you guys are looking for more of the specs and all that stuff, I did another video about it, so you guys can check it out. I'll have it linked up here in the cards. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so let's start off by talking about the performance of this phone, and if you're like me and you've never used a budget phone before, I think you can be pleasantly surprised at how good this phone is in terms of performance. So I think it's a combination of the Snapdragon 630 in this and the stock Android that just lets this thing fly through everything you won't do on a day-to-day basis. So whether that's reading social media, posting to social media, browsing the web, watching YouTube videos, watching Netflix, all of that is just seamless on this. I've never had this thing slow down when I'm trying to do any of that stuff. In fact, even doing things like multitasking, so having split screen on this phone works perfectly. So I had YouTube videos and was browsing the internet and everything just worked perfectly. Whether I touched either one of the apps, there was no slowdown whatsoever. So yeah, in terms of performance, I have been really impressed by this thing. In fact, the only time I even noticed that it was a little bit slower than my Pixel 2 was when I had them next to each other and I was trying to open up the apps at the same time. I could tell that the Moto just did not open them as fast, and that's going to be due to the Snapdragon 630 versus the Snapdragon 835. But yeah, I think if you're getting this for performance, it's fantastic. And then, of course, the fact that it's running Android 8.0 means you don't have to worry about being behind. You don't have to worry about security patches and all that because it's up to date. Being an Android One phone is, I think, a huge plus in just having the latest features on your phone. So even coming from the Pixel 2, I could definitely see myself switching over to this phone full time and have no issues whatsoever except for the camera, and more on that in a little bit. But before that, I want to talk about the battery life on this. So because of the Snapdragon 630 and the 3GB of RAM, this thing has a great battery life. It's much better than my Pixel 2 anyways. The battery life on this can last easily over a day. It also supports Quick Charge 3.0, so it charges much faster than my Pixel 2 does. So yeah, in terms of that, I actually much prefer using this phone because I know it won't die out on me. And finally, before moving on to the cameras, I want to talk a little bit about the display. So the display on this is, of course, LCD. Now, it's almost always better to have an OLED display, but honestly, I would rather take a good LCD display over a bad OLED. And this is a great LCD display. So it's a 1080p screen, it's 5.2 inches, and the colors on it aren't the most accurate, but there are a couple different modes you can pick. So if you like the phone to be a little bit warmer color, you can do that, or cooler, and then you can also boost the colors if you prefer that look. So it's nice to be able to at least have those options. The only place you're ever going to notice that it's not an LCD display is at night when you have the Moto display turned on. The nice thing about it on the Pixel 2 is that when you have the always on display, it's just those pixels lit up. But on this thing, the entire screen lights up. So even though it is a very dark color, it's still, you can see that the entire display is lit up. So that's the only place I really noticed and it's an LCD versus an OLED display. And actually there's one other place that I noticed it's an LCD display, and it's the fact that when I have my polarized sunglasses on, when I put this thing in landscape, I can't see the screen at all. Now this is something that I didn't particularly know about. I had to do a little bit of research, but it turns out that all LCDs put out polarized light, and then if you have polarized sunglasses at certain angles, the polarized light will meet it, and then yeah, you won't be able to see anything on it. But it's the case with all LCD displays, so if you have polarized sunglasses, yeah, in certain angles this display may not work out for you, but really I don't feel like it's something that comes up that much, and then this is the case with all LCD displays, so I'm not really going to knock it down for that. Alright, so finally, let's talk about the cameras on this thing. So there are 3 cameras on this total, so there's 2 in the back, and then the front-facing camera. So I'll be honest, all of the cameras on this phone are just okay. They're actually pretty good, but when you're comparing it to something like the Pixel 2, it's a little hard to find these to be that great. Now, I will be honest, they take great pictures when you have good lighting, but when you have bad lighting, they all tend to struggle a little bit. So let's start off by talking about the main camera. So the main camera is a 12 megapixel sensor. It's got a regular focal length, and that one does really well, especially the HDR. When HDR turns on, this thing actually takes some pretty pleasant pictures. Even with the wide angle lens with HDR on, you get some really, really nice pictures. Even indoors, if you have good lighting, you can get some fantastic pictures out of this. But when you get to low light situations, it starts to break down quite a bit. And another thing I want to note is the camera system on this is not the fastest. The shutter lag, it can be quite high, especially if you're taking a bunch of HDR pictures in a row. The Snapdragon 660 just can't quite quite keep up with it. So on my Pixel 2, it's just like you can just keep touching the button as many times as you want and just constantly taking pictures. Whereas on this phone, it takes a second to take it. If you take 3 pictures in a row that are HDR, it takes a while before it lets you take another picture. So that's something to definitely note. Now let's talk a little bit about the wide angle sensor. And I'll be honest, I really prefer the wide angle sensor to having a telephoto sensor, because I'm really usually trying to get more things in the shot versus less, and this thing really helps in doing that. Indoors though, you are going to see a lot of lens distortion, so you're going to see on the edges of the picture that it's just very curved on both sides. Outdoors, you usually don't have this issue because everything's so far apart, it's usually fine. Now in terms of optical image stabilization, this thing has none, so video-wise, you're going to be seeing some pretty shaky videos. It's actually not that bad. Here's a couple clips that you guys can see from the regular and the wide-angle lens. So yeah, in terms of video, I still think it takes a really good video. It does 4K up to 30 frames per second, so that's always good. In terms of budget phones, I think this camera is really good. It also has a lot of different modes built into it, if you guys are interested in that. So it has a portrait mode, and I'll be honest, I have not been able to get the portrait mode to work at all, so I'm not going to talk about that one very much, but it's got a couple other cool modes that you can try out. So it's got this nice cutout mode, so you can take a picture of someone and it will basically cut them out of the scene. It works relatively well. It's also got a spot color one, so you can drain the picture of all colors except for one, so that's a nice little feature to have built in. I know a lot of people like that filter. And then of course you can do things like slow motion and also have face filters. I don't see many people using this more than like one time, but it was fun to try it out at least. Now let's move on to the front facing camera. So the front facing camera is a 16 megapixel sensor, and it's just okay. Most of the pictures I got out of it are really soft. Even when I took the beauty mode on, which is on by default, the pictures just came out really soft. And I'm just not sure why, especially when you have a 16 megapixel sensor, I think it would come out detailed and sharp, but no, all the pictures were just pretty soft out of it. Now the front facing, it does have a front facing flash, and I recommend that nobody use that because it will look terrible. Compared to the Pixel 2 though, when I took it like with nearly no light, you're at least gonna get a selfie out of this, versus with the Pixel 2, you're gonna get something that doesn't look that great. Alright, so this is a look at your front facing camera in action on the Moto 4. It's pretty good. You can in fact turn on flashlight. I'm not exactly sure how. Oh, there you go. See, I don't know if you guys can. It's really hard to tell, but you can even have the flashlight on in the front, so if you guys do a lot of selfies or you do a lot of vlogging with the front-facing camera, it works pretty well. So yeah, that's it for the cameras. I think for a budget phone, these cameras are actually pretty good. Budget phones, this is the one part where they really struggle, is with the camera. So if you guys are looking for a great camera, if you're trying to create content with this, yeah, then you're going to want to spend the money to get something like a Pixel 2 or an iPhone 10 or a Galaxy S9. Something that has a great camera. And at this point, all those flagship level phones, that's what they're selling you, is the great camera. Alright, so let's finish off this review by doing my favorite part of it, which is all that miscellaneous stuff that I liked and disliked about this device that really doesn't fit into a category. And I have a list here, so I'm just going to read a little bit of these off. So, number one is the fact that this thing has a headphone jack. You guys, it has a headphone jack. It's something that I miss on my Pixel 2. I don't miss it so much that I really complain about it on a day-to-day basis, but like, once you go to a device that has a headphone jack, you just realize how convenient it is. So, yeah, I know it's a lost battle, but I like the fact that this has a headphone jack. Next up is the fact that this thing is IP68 water and dust resistant. That's something that you usually see on higher end phones, and it's good to see that budget phones are starting to get it. I think it's something that should be available on most phones, and hopefully in the next couple of years it will be. Because I mean, these things are already fragile as it is. The fact that a little bit of rain can mess one of these up is just kind of stupid. Next up is the fact that this thing has a single front-facing speaker. So this is not so much a like and dislike. It's kind of in between. So I would love it if this thing had dual front-facing speakers like my Pixel 2 does, but it doesn't. But I'm glad that they opted to have a single front-facing speaker versus having a bottom-firing speakers. I really dislike bottom-firing speakers because they're so easy to cover up, and this one has a really good front-facing speaker. Next up is the fingerprint sensor. So I think I complained a little bit about the fingerprint sensor in my first video, is the fact that it's not a home button, it's just a fingerprint sensor, and then you can also use it to turn off the screen like that. Now the biggest problem that I have with this is that sometimes when I'm getting it out of my pocket, my palm will brush against it and it is trying to register that. So My biggest complaint is I just wish that this thing was a little bit more recessed so that when I'm taking it out of my pocket, it doesn't see those as attempted unlocks. And then sometimes I've had it actually lock me out of the phone before because I just didn't, my hand just brushed it too many times and it counted all of those as attempts to unlock. And then finally, something that I'm really annoyed about, and it's the fact that this is a glass phone and there's no wireless charging. I mean, seriously, what's the point of a glass phone with no wireless charging? Like, there's absolutely no point. I don't think anybody can convince me that there is a point to having a glass phone with no wireless charging. But yeah, those are some of the things that I found in my time using this phone that I really liked and disliked. Alright, so there you guys go. That's my full review of the Moto X4. It's been a really good experience for me, and hopefully this video helps you guys out in making your decision. And if it does, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you guys want to see more videos like this. And then finally, I want to know in the comments down below if you guys could let me know, what do you guys think about budget phones? Because I definitely didn't consider buying a budget phone because it wouldn't get updates, but with a phone like this, you're going to get updates, and I think for most people, a phone like this is good enough. So, what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!